So going down this journey of vampires and demons and whatnot, I had to stop and pause and ask myself, okay, am I crazy? So the next step for me was to just completely stop taking any substances whatsoever. There was no more liquor, no more weed, no more edibles, any of that, because I had to make sure that, you know, since weed is legal now, the places that I'm getting my weed from, they're not putting anything in my weed or making me hallucinate. And then I came to the realization that one of the things that I had before I started seeing all these things was gin, and especially Seagram's gin. So let's break that word down, Seagram. So I was like, So when I dove into more of Seagram's, I was able to find, just like what I was explaining before with the whole Forex situation. Using my Forex knowledge of reconning businesses and industries, I was able to find correlations and funding from the Seagram's Corporation to Jeffrey Epstein and also to the Nexium cult. Descendants, some connection to Seagram, and then Seagram's gin. Now, what is a jinn? A jinn is a evil spirit in the Middle Eastern culture, more in Sufism and more in Islam. And I was like, okay, so now I'm starting to pick some words out and understand some things. This led me to wonder about the originations of these particular characters. Characters like werewolves, vampires, and things of that nature. Because as I've stated before, I don't really believe in the personification of animals. However, I believe that in the past, what people would do was they would find the characteristics of the animal, and then they would use that animal's characteristics and compare a person to having a characteristic like that animal. I don't believe that animals' heads were on human bodies. So when they talk about vampires, when I go all the way back to Egypt, I hear of Sekhmet, which is a vampire, which is a lion-headed goddess who Ra sent down to make sure that the people were following Ra, because Ra was getting old. And then she killed some people that were going against Ra's will, and then she became bloodthirsty. So Ra had to trick her and give her some wine or give her some beer, and that calmed her down. And this represents the Leo. From there, I found the Mithras, which is pretty much what the Freemasons worship from reading the book Morals and Dogma by Albert Pike. It's a lot of hidden symbolism in there and a lot of hidden words, and they tell you that in the book. But one of the things that I realize is that they have a figure, a statue, with the head of a lion, with a snake wrapped around him, and the lion has angel wings. This looks very similar to the American Medical Association's logo. So my mind is working now. I'm like, it seems a little bit peculiar. So now I'm wondering, I'm like, all right, well, could the vampires be cannibals? Because a lot of this stuff happened during the Dark Ages. And at first, Christianity in Rome was shunned upon because they were accused of being cannibals and meeting in caves, and the Romans would leave babies out to die, and apparently the Christians would raise those children as orphans. But like as we've explored before, it seems as though there could have been some telephone in that, because one of the things that I'm not understanding about Christianity is eating the flesh and blood of Christ. So one of the things that they do in the Mithra is they slay the bull, eat the flesh of the bull, and then drink the blood of the bull as sacrifice. This is one of the same things going on with the god Baal, who is mentioned in the Bible. But growing up, and a lot of, especially black people, a lot of black people really don't go as far as the stories that are in the children's Bible. So, they know about Adam and Eve, Noah's Ark, Jonah and the whale, Samson and Delilah, the story of Jesus, the guy in the pit of the lions. But you don't really hear about Baal. You hear about Babylon and tearing down false idols, but you don't really hear that there's tons of stories about Baal in Numbers, Judges, and Kings. Nobody reads those. So there's a whole other God in the book that the God of the Christian Bible was beefing with. And I find that interesting because I never knew that. So if you go back and you go look up Baal, and that's Baal or Baal, and some people refer to Baal as Baal. It was a large goat-headed figure, and this is where the Phoenicians or the Carthaginians or the Edomites or the people of Jordan were sacrificing their kid. So when I looked at the documentary and on this particular subject, I noticed the crescent moon with the points facing up with the star in the middle for those people sacrificing kids. And I've come to realize that I was right about that crescent moon, man. I get it. So what I've learned from studying the Mithras, who has a shocking similarity to the story of Jesus, where they would be somewhat of a vampire type organization because of the blood sacrifice. And this goes all to the music industry of Baal and the Mithras, who was also Prometheus. I found out that there was another cult prior to the Mithras called the Apis, and they're spelled like APIs, and they reenact the rape of Persephone in the story of Perseus, because apparently Hades, or someone sent by Hades, bestowed himself upon her in a negative fashion, and then her mother became a witch and was baptizing babies in fire. And the whole ceremony where apparently they have the great horned owl in Northern California, or you hear those Harvard Ivy League men dressing up in drag and everything, is to reenact that rape play of Persephone and Perseus. So I understand that now, and I didn't get that before. But going forward back to the Mithras, there was a picture, there's a mural, because when they found the caves of the Mithras, they look very, very similar to the Freemasons lodges, the way that they're set up when they do their ceremonies. When you go watch it on YouTube and you want to look up Mithras, Mithras. So on the statue, on the picture, there is the sun in the top left corner, the moon on the right. There's a man on top of a bull, and he's stabbing the bull in the neck. There's people behind the bull pulling wheat out of the bull's butt, and then there's a dog and a snake biting the bull from the front as the man is on there stabbing, and then there's a scorpion grabbing the testicles of the bull. Now, and in some depictions of the mural, there are the zodiac signs around. Other ones have dogs on top of each other and lions. And then I forgot one more animal. There's a raven. So I've never taken art interpretation as a class, but I decided to take it upon myself and decipher this for myself. And I was wondering, okay, so it seems as though during the daytime and the nighttime this is happening. The raven is a vulture. A raven, when you look up the characteristics of a raven, they are thieves. They wait until you're hurt and you're weak, and then they attack you. They also attack pregnant animals while they're giving birth as well. So the ravens do that. But it seems like the raven is waiting around to pick the leftovers of the bull. There's a dog. The dog and the snake seem to be on the same side as the moon on the picture, meaning that at night, this is where the dogs and the snakes roam. So we look at the characteristics of a dog. The dogs are followers. They bark really loud. They hunt in groups, and they all follow one true leader. And I believe the werewolves and things represent rape, and they'll all jump on you. Because I've had a dog in the past, and if you don't properly socialize an adult dog and bring a puppy around him, he will try to hump the dog, which can symbolize rape in an animalistic way. If that was going on with some humans, then it would look like this was a child perv compared to the age of the puppy and the actual dog. So this is why I think that when they're showing werewolves and dogs in pictures like this, it represents a characteristic of that type of savagery. So next we have the snake. Now, what is the characteristic of a snake? The snake is sneaky and poisonous and jumps out on you when you're not looking. Okay? Then you have the scorpion. Now, I looked up the scorpion, and the scorpion specifically is biting the nuts of the bull. So a scorpion, to catch its prey, actually glows and attracts its prey towards it. So that would be like the flashy person that lets you come over, or someone asking you for a hug, and then open their arms and you come over there and then you attempt to hug them and then they kick you in the nuts. It seems as though it's something of that nature. And then there's other people in the murals where there's a guy pulling the wheat out of the bull's butt, and then there's somebody behind him, and then there's also a couple of people in front of the bull. Now, what I think that there's people in the back, I think that those are people that were telling, hey, go pull the wheat out of the bull's butt. And then the second person in front of the bull was telling somebody, hey, go hand Mithra the knife so he can kill the bull. But then they represent some type of onlookers. Now, the bull to me represents a powerful, large figure that can cause damage when it's angry. And it seems as though they were you had to kill the bull in order to get to the grass or get to the crop. Because if the bull was roaming that particular territory, he's not going to let you get there and pick the crop so you can feed the rest of your own generation. So they send somebody with enough courage to actually slay the bull. That's one of the depictions. Now, I've heard other explanations of them killing off the age of the Taurus and welcoming the new age, whichever comes after it, because it is a resurrection of springtime. As I've heard, that is the true resurrection of Easter of Jesus Christ, because if you look at the story of Jesus Christ and you look at the story of the Mithras, they both have the same stories as far as the Virgin Mother, the birthday on Christmas. But if you look at the crux, which is a star constellation, you'll see that this represents the winter equinox, and then when the resurrection on Easter represents spring. So in essence, it seems as though they were celebrating the weather, and they prayed to these deities, especially Baal, during times of great famine and drought. Because there's different stories about the origins and the battles between, certain elements of nature to explain away the decisions that the adults were making back then. But if you notice, the 12 zodiacs, all of them have some sort of deity representation, and you just have to be careful of what flag that you're actually flying. So I believe that each one of those characters in that mural represents a personality and predator to a strong individual. And if you're guarding your territory, they praise the person that will come kill you, and then they will eat your flesh and drink your blood so they can now take your resources. So you have dogs, snakes, scorpions, ravens, and lions. Now those would be under the vampire category. And then let's say you have witches. Witches would be vampires, but they just target children specifically. Now, back then, when someone came, whether a young lady had her menstrual cycle or a boy had experienced his nocturnal emissions where he can actually produce sperm, seemed to be in those days where the boy or the woman had become an adult. So when we're referring to witches, I believe that those are people who have not matured yet, and the children are the targets of witches. So that's what we've been learning so far. So now when you're looking at these black conscious groups, one of the things that you have to see is the symbols, or what they're saying that they represent. What animals are they acting like? So I looked into Brother Polite, and I looked into the names that he claims to have as far as his Egyptian name, like Neset Atumre, and then his wife is Neset Amunet Atumre. And it seems as though a moon ray or a tomb ray was the creator, and in other types of in other stories they label him as the hidden one and someone of sexual potency. And then Amunet is the goddess of invisibility and snakes and welcomes you to the underworld. So it sounds like some type of play off Anubis. But these, and then she either looks like a raven or she looks like a snake. So if we go back to my previous depictions of what I think the pictures represent, is they say she would be someone who's a thief, waits until you're hurt or weak, and then you have the snake, she's sneaky and poisonous. Those would be the characteristics. When you got people barking like dogs, like Taharka Bey, and then he shows you the back of his shirt with the Sphinx bent over, and then said God, and then has the earth looking like a crescent moon with a star on the top, that seems to be some type of blood sexual sacrifice. And I've noticed that one of the worshipers of the Mithras, when you look at the old murals of other depictions of their beliefs, they have shaved faces and other things of that nature. So just be careful what you're looking at. RichMack.